I can't believe you never tried apple pie, Genya. It sounds gross, said Boy groaned under his breath. You didn't have to look at him to note the perpendicular grin spread across his face. It's evident in his voice. If it isn't omaji... Oh, excuse me. I'm not eating it, he grumbles. Honestly, he sounds like Sanemi that you couldn't help but feel amused by his stubbornness. His resemblance to Sanemi in attitude was irritating. Despite the Shinagawa brothers' tough exterior, you knew they both had a soft hidden spot inside their little rough exterior. It was enduring to see this side of Genya, even if he tried to hide it behind the grumbling. Don't judge it until you've tried it again. Besides, apples are way more healthier than boppamochi. You tell him as Genya continued to express his disdain for everything other than orgi. Whatever. The young teen scoffed. You glanced at him over your shoulder as he quickly turned his head to avoid your stare, a faint blush crossing his cheeks. Yep, he's definitely the lovable puppy deep down. The thought had you smirking under your breath. I tell you what, once we finish in the village, I'll bake you my famous deep dish caramel apple pie, you tell him. You didn't miss the way Genya's eyes seemed to sparkle at that, and you smirked maliciously before deciding to tease him a little. Loaded with freshly picked and juicy orchard apple slices wrapped in the warmest, flattest of all butter pie crust and floated in savory salted caramel sauce and topped with a scoop of vanilla ice cream, also drizzled with caramel and sprinkles with cinnamon. Genya was practically salivating at the mouth the more you talked about the pie, as he gulped and you watched him quickly wipe the drool from the corner of his mouth. The thought had his stomach rumbling, even feeling as if he's eating it himself. All right, knock it off, would you? He hisses, blushing profusely, not of embarrassment, and you couldn't help but laugh, mentally giving yourself a high five for getting a rise out of him. Even Sanemi himself couldn't resist whenever you talked about food. People always said your cooking was heavenly, and even thought you had God's tongue. When it came to taste, guess it's just one of the perks of being a Tenuo. Can we just hurry up and get this over with? He snarled, hurriedly walking past you before running, obviously trying to get away from you before you can say anything else about food, and make him salivate like a hungry dog. Obviously, you watched him run ahead, and the village came into view, and your lips pressed into a thin line, keeping you from laughing your head off. I'm going to butcher this name actually. Ometsu Village is a pretty cozy rural village hidden deep within the mountains of the Ibuga Prefecture. The township itself looks humble and welcoming, with houses and shops designed with slate tiled roofs and traditional Japanese architecture. Upon arriving, Genya stayed close to you as he suddenly felt uncomfortable and like an outcast, noting how several of the townsfolk were eyeing him funny. Seeing it as if feeling his uneasiness, you reached to hold his hand, entwining your fingers with his before giving his hand a reassuring squeeze. Intently, Genya yanked his hand away, not liking how it made him feel like a toddler being guided by his mother. However, he couldn't bring himself to do so and allowed it. You seemed to already know where it is you were going as you came to a halt to what appeared to be a small ramen shop. Hello, you said, pulling back the yurin that hung in the door. A young woman with dark black hair, styled in a bun and silver eyes, wearing a light pink kobajo, glances at you. Hello and welcome, she greets kindly. Hey, Yoyai, how are you? You replied. The woman Yoyai giggles, and you surprise. Oh, Yin, oh, good, it's to see you again. I'm doing well. She smiles. That's good. Where's your father? I brought the spices he asked for. Just as you said that, the soji behind her was pulled aside, and a large built man with white hair emerged. Yin, glad you made it. I was beginning to think you've forgotten all about me. Good to see you, he greets happily. You roll your eyes and smile nonetheless. You know I would never forget you, Kama-sama. You tell him and pull out a red furoshiki that contained the small jars of spice and handed it to him. After checking to make sure you gave him everything you'd ask for, Kuma smiles. Thank you, Yin-san. I really appreciate. Kuma gave a joyful smile. It's hard to find kind people like you nowadays. He then reached into his ahori and handed you a small sack of money. Opening it, your eyes widened to see the contents of 15,000 yen. Holy moly. Oh, Kuma-sama, this is way too much. Nonsense, a good woman like you earned it. Get yourself and that man of yours something nice. He chuckles. Soon Kuma turned his attention to the young boy beside you. Who's the strong young man you have with you? He asked. Well, speaking of my man, this is his little brother, you say. At that, Kuma's eyes widen in astonishment. Really? I thought he looked familiar. The large man laughed. So you're Sanemi's younger brother, eh? He continues, examining the younger Shinagawa and quickly took note of the scar across the boy's face. Genya looked at you first, and you nodded for him to speak up. I'm Shinagawa Genya. Nice to meet you, sir. Yes, I mean Sanemi's younger brother. He stammered, while shakily raising his hand for a handshake. He flinched when Kuma kindly accepted and shook it. I'm going to butcher his name. Izujima Kuma. Kuma introduces himself. I see you also wear your scar with pride. Huh? You have one similar to your brother. Kuma then points at the scar and verbally over his right eye that remained, it blinded. It was Sanemi who encouraged me to wear my scar with pride, he exclaimed. It was a year ago when I met Sanemi. I got a scar from a demon. Genya's eyes widened slightly as Kuma continued. I lost my wife that day. His expression then turned cold at the memory. I fought the monster in order to protect my daughter, Yuya, and my grandchild. You and Genya watched as Kuma rolled up his sleeve, revealing even more scars on his arm. I was badly wounded and believed the vile demon could finish the job. Sanemi came and killed the monster, thus saving me and my family's lives, Kuma says. The big man then grins, his expression back to being joyful. For that, I am forever grateful. I owe him to this day. If Sanemi hadn't shown up when he did, no doubt we would all have been killed. A peaceful silence followed as a proud smile glazed your lips as the thought of your lover, whilst Genya couldn't help but marvel at the story of his big brother's, generosity. When, help a demon! Everyone, including you and Genya, suddenly jumped at the disturbing cry of a child. Several villagers outside began panicking. What? A demon? At this time of day? Your eyes widened in shock. Both Kuma and Yuya panicked. That sounded like Kataro, Kuma exclaimed, realizing that it was indeed his grandson's cries. Kutsumura! Dread courses through Yuma at the thought of her son being attacked by a demon, as she emerged from behind the counter ready to run out the door. No, Yayu, stay here, it's dangerous. Kuma stops her. Genya, wait! You suddenly call out, but said boy had already bolted out towards the entrance.